Hey, it's Friday, everybody. I am going to read chapter 4 today, which is called D-Day. It was colder than a church pew on Sunday morning, scarier than eating your little sister's cooking, darker than when you're out in the garage getting a tool for your dad when the light bulbs burned out. Thanks, Dad. I just love risking my life for a Phillips head screwdriver. In short, I was not having a great time. Okay, Wally, sis, on the count of 3, we lift the bag out of the pickup and set it on the ground. Miguel was giving the orders. At least I thought it was Miguel. At 5 o'clock in the morning, it's hard to remember your own name, let alone anybody else's. Where's your friend Kenny? Wall Street complained. Why isn't he here to help? Who needs Kenny when I got you guys, Mama? Miguel grinned. Besides, he's fighting off the flu or something. With enough grunts and groans to let him know we sure missed good old Kenny's presence, we pushed the heavy canvas bag to the edge of the pickup and kind of half dropped it to the ground. Miguel opened the top. There was nothing inside but folded cloth. Lots and lots of folded cloth. Okay, he said. Opera, Wally, take this bag and walk it out as far as it will go. What is it? It's the balloon. At least it will be when we get it inflated. Opera and I took hold of the bag and started pulling. The material spilled out as we walked farther and farther from the pickup. We were in a field. Don't worry, I already checked. The best I could see, which wasn't much in the dark, there were no bulls. Even if there were, no self-respecting bull would be up this early in the morning. It all seems so unfair, being dragged out of bed in the middle of the night just to die. At least in prison, when they execute you at dawn, you don't have to build your own electric chair. But here we were, up before the rest of civilization, unfolding a balloon and getting ready for the ride of our lives. Or deaths. In less than an hour, we'd be going up, which meant in less than an hour, I'd be meeting God. Talk about unprepared. I hadn't even brushed my teeth. Do you think they pass out certs in heaven? Then again, maybe things would work out. Maybe we'd be struck by a major earthquake, or maybe an outbreak of the Black Plague, or maybe they'd hurry up and build a railway right where I'm standing and hit me with a freight train. I should be so lucky. Wally? Opera puffed as we kept pulling out the balloon. You don't think we're going to land any place outdoorsy, do you? I mean, where we have to hike or anything like that? Nah, I said. This field is about as close to roughing it as you'll get. Good, he sighed. Then after another moment, he started up again. Wally? Yeah, Opera? I know you're really afraid of heights and worried about dying and everything. There was no missing the concern in his voice. Good old Opera, a friend till the end. And I just want to say, he paused for a second. Even in the dark, I could tell my buddy was getting kind of choked up. If that should happen, you mean when it happens, I corrected. Hey, if we're going for pity, let's go all the way. When it happens, yes. Boy, this is hard to say. Go ahead, I encouraged. I know we're men, but it's okay to express our innermost feelings. Well then, if you should die, yes. Could I have your CD player? Good old Opera, friend till the end. The last of the balloon came out of the bag, but there was one minor problem. It had a 10-foot hole in the top. Miguel? Miguel! Relax, Miguel laughed as he approached. In his hand was another piece of material. What's that? Opera asked. It's called a parachute, he said as he stooped down and began to lace it over the huge hole. A parachute? I croaked. Don't worry, Wally. It's not a real parachute. We use it to let the hot air out of the top. Let out? I thought the idea with hot air was to put in. Sure, Miguel chuckled, until we want to land. And we do want to land, right? We shouldn't have to worry about landing if we never took off, I offered. They just looked at me. Hey, you can't blame a guy for trying. Back at the truck, we unloaded the wicker basket. Miguel set it on its side and unattached the mouth of the balloon to it. I'm sorry, he laid it on its side and attached the mouth of the balloon to it. Next, he cranked up a gas-powered fan, which started to fill the balloon with air. Soon, it was full enough for him to step inside and walk around looking for rips and tears and stuff. Okay, he grinned as he stepped back out. Let's fire up the burner. Fire? I moaned, vividly remembering the fate of our little model the day before. He kneeled down to 2 giant silver burners attached to the top of the basket and pointed them toward the opening of the balloon. Mama, sis, grab hold of the balloon's mouth and keep it pulled apart so the flame doesn't burn it. Are you sure this is safe? Mama asked nervously. Mama, he assured her, I do this all of the time. Wally, Opera, once I get this thing fired up, you'll need to run back down to the top of the balloon and hold down the crown line. As it fills with heat, it'll want to roll back and forth. Gotcha. He adjusted a few valves and suddenly, whoosh! There was that old familiar sound, accompanied by a 6-foot-long flame shooting into the balloon. Wall Street gave a little scream and almost let go of the opening. Hold it open, sis! Hold it open! She and Mama obeyed as the flame shot into the balloon, filling it with the fiery hot air. Opera and I raced down to the other end as fast as we could and grabbed the rope connected to the top of the balloon. In a matter of seconds, the balloon started rolling back and forth, just like Miguel had said. At first, it wasn't much, but pretty soon it turned into a real wrestling match. Hold it steady, Miguel shouted. Hold it down with that crown line. I can't hang on, Opera shouted as the balloon rolled back and forth. The line keeps slipping from my hands. I, on the other hand, wrapped the rope around my hand good and tight. I mean, good and tight. No way would I let it slip from me. The good news was it didn't. The bad news was I did. Not from the balloon, but from the ground. As the balloon whipped back and forth, it started yanking my arm back and forth. And since my arm and I are kind of attached, it yanked me back and forth too. Let go, Opera shouted. Wally, let go. I can't. I struggled with the rope as the balloon kept throwing me around and rising higher and higher. You're supposed to ride under the balloon, Opera shouted, not on top of it. Thanks for the reminder, I shouted back. Then, when I was positive that I would forever be attached to the balloon, that I'd become the first human blimp, and wondered if that meant I could see all the Super Bowl games for free, my hand slipped free from the rope. I hit the ground with a soggy ker-splat. It would have been a ker-thump, but by luck, I found the only cow pie in the entire field. At least I thought it was a cow pie. It sure smelled like a cow pie. But in 2 minutes and 34 seconds, I'd find out this pie didn't exactly belong to a cow. Keep the rope tight, Miguel shouted. As the balloon fills, let it out. Walk her back till she's up over the basket. It was quite a fight, but between the two of us, we managed. Soon the balloon was hovered over the basket. Miguel had already climbed in. Okay, everybody, he shouted over the roar of the burner. Come on board! Opera and Wall Street quickly scampered into the basket. I would have joined them, but I was busy shoving my glasses up on my nose and saying a little prayer. Mama, Miguel shouted, you sure you know how to drive a pickup? Since before you were born. She tried to look brave, but there was no missing the worry in her eyes. Come on, Wally, Miguel shouted. We're nearly ready. Huh? Oh, yeah, right. I glanced around. Fortunately, I noticed something important had to be done, like retying my shoes. The basket gave a little scoot on the ground. Get in, Miguel shouted. Now, we're almost airborne. I stood up. Well, it was now or never. Unfortunately, the never part wasn't much of an option. I did my best imitation of an athlete. I threw one leg over the basket and I tried to climb in. Well, so much for imitations. I got hung up. One foot was in, the other foot was still hanging out. I kicked my inside foot around only succeeded in getting it tangled up in some sort of bungee cord that was coiled up and hanging inside. Miguel, I'm stuck. Quit horsing around, he scowled. I could tell he was getting pretty serious. I'm not kidding, I said. I'm really... Wait a minute, Opera shouted. I forgot our lunch. No, Opera, stay in the... But before Miguel could finish the warning, Opera had leaped out of the basket, which meant the basket was suddenly a whole lot higher, which meant we started to rise. Grab hold of the sides. Mama, Opera, grab hold of the sides. Hold us down. They did. Together, Opera and Mama managed to pull us down. A little. I would have helped, but I was still caught on the edge. And then we heard it. Moo! Everyone spun around to the sound, but there were too many bushes to see clearly. Moo! Wall Street stuttered. You don't think that's a... Don't be silly, Opera chided. That's a cow if I ever heard one. Guys? I interrupted. I'm still kind of hung up here. Opera, climb in the basket, Miguel demanded. But Opera and Wall Street were suddenly in the middle of what they did best, arguing. How would you know the difference between a bull and a cow? Wall Street demanded. You lived your whole life in the city. Hey, I watch PBS. Opera, climb into the basket now or we're going to moo. Guys, could one of you give me a hand here? Moo! It sounds like a bull to me, Wall Street insisted. Guys, if it's a bull, it would be charging by now, Opera said as he threw a look over his shoulder. And as you can clearly see, there's nothing heading toward us, but finally the cow came into view. Its head was lowered, and it was charging. A bull! Opera shouted. In his panic, he momentarily let go of the basket. No! Miguel cried. Jump back in! Don't let... He was too late. The balloon gave a giant leap. Wall Street screamed and in desperate panic scampered over the edge of the basket and leaped out too. No! Miguel shouted. Don't! But again, he was too late. Opera and Mama tried to hang on, but the balloon was too strong. It started to rise. The bull continued its charge. Let go! Miguel shouted. Run to the truck! But let go! We'll be all right! The bull was nearly there, and by the look of things, he'd already picked out his target. But it wasn't Opera, or Wall Street, or Mama. It wasn't even the basket. It was who or what was hanging over the basket. That's right. Old Bully decided my rear end was going to be his next bullseye. The balloon gave another lunge and finally ripped out of Opera's and Mama's hands, sending Miguel and me shooting high up into the sky. The only problem was, when we shot up, I shot out. Ah! I screamed as I tumbled out of the basket. The ground was 20 feet below. But I only fell about 6 feet before I bounced back up. Then fell again. Then bounced back up. Then fell. What's going on? I thought. Can't I even do a simple thing like fall to my own death? Then I noticed the pain around my ankle. The best I could figure, the bungee cord that was tangled around my foot had tightened. It was the only thing stopping me from becoming a human omelet on the pasture below. As I bounced back to the loose end of the cord, I grabbed it and held on tight, hoping that the other end was fastened to the basket. I looked up. There was Miguel, holding on to the bungee cord as if his life depended on it. Actually, it was my life that depended on it. I appreciate his effort, but I wasn't crazy about this hanging upside down business or about bouncing up and down like a human yo-yo. The balloon kept rising, Miguel kept holding on, and I kept bouncing. They say great minds think the clearest in times of trouble, and I was proof of the theory. Opera! I screamed. Yeah? His voice drifted up from somewhere under the truck. "The CD player is yours!" And that's the end of chapter 4. What a great place to end for the weekend with a wonderful cliffhanger. Chapter 5 is called A Little God Talk. So on Monday, we'll see what kind of conversation Wally has with God. I hope all of you talk to God this weekend and hear what he has to say to you. Love you guys. Bye.